Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
we're taking the throttle tonight.
Around the halls of power to the factory line. Truth getting buried, but the people still shine. Out on Main Street, the heartland road. Rich calling out names and kicking down doors. No spin, no script, no puppet strings. When the system shakes, that's when freedom sings. I'm America off the rails. With the fire, the swan came down. Unchained voices, red, white, and true. Standing tall with nothing to lose. From DC drama to small town plans, we're digging for truth with calloused hands. Listeners rising, coast to coast. The mic's our weapon, the truth our post. We don't trade liberty for safer life. We hold that line, we testify. Steel and spirit, faith and fight. This is America, burning bright. America off the rails. Bold ideas and rebel tales. Rick Robinson's voice lights the flame. Stand up proud when you hear our name. Oh. America off the rails. Bid on track. Stand up tonight.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, so I guess we should say may contain, since I'm working on that now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the extended open for the America Off the Rails show. Sorry, got a new intro commissioned and just got it back and wanted to show it off. So we played the whole thing. I don't know, dude, the guitar riffs. I'm just saying, the guitar riffs. So we're back. We're live. Hope everybody's having a great, I know it's Monday. Like, what are you talking about? Great. Hey, it's Monday though, and you survived it. I don't know. So we could talk about we could open with something fun, but we may come back with that in the second half of the show because there's the whole Christopher Columbus Day versus Indigenous Peoples Day. Having DNA of both, I don't really care for the most part. I do know that that's been hijacked by a lot of folks, so I know why a lot of people have a problem with it. I'm not necessarily one of them. But first, we got to start here. So I've got a clip that I'm going to get queued up for you guys because Donald Trump is changing the world one peace deal at a time. And people are starting to notice. Some people are happy about it. Some are trying to take credit for it. Others that once called him a Russian stooge are actually giving him some credit. So we're going to be talking about that from a good part of the first part of the show. So let's buckle in and get this set up. Again, you're listening to the America Off the Rails show live on KLNradio.com. I'm Rick Robinson. Let's kick this thing off, shall we? Maybe. Of course, now that I'm trying to be all fancy, it says, no, we're not playing this clip for you, Rick, because we don't want to. We don't want to play this clip for you. After all, Rick, we know you had it queued up in advance and ready to go and all that fun stuff. But sure, it's live radio. So let's mess it up for you because you were being all fancy and thought you were cool and stuff. It's kind of the story of my life. All right, let's do this anyway. Here we go. Share this tab instead. And big in that.
This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. As you know, the hostages have been returned. And further work goes on having to do with the, sadly to say, bodies. Together we've achieved what everybody said was impossible. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East. And it's a very simple expression, peace in the Middle East. And we've heard it for many years, but nobody thought it could ever get there. And now we're there. And I want to congratulate everybody sitting in these first few rows and standing behind me. They chose to stand, but I promise I'll make it short, okay? We are not going to keep you standing for long. These are great leaders. After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food and medical equipment. And
all right, so we got to stop there for a second. Hang on. Got to stop there for just a second because I've seen this happening all over the place. And by all over the place, I mean absolutely all over the place. But yeah, so there's humanitarian aid finally flowing in. And of course, all the, Gaza and the Hamasniks are the good guys and Israel is the bad guys. See, this proves that Israel was trying to starve them. No, it doesn't. It means Hamas is done stealing stuff because they don't want to mess up the deal anymore. Look, Hamas is war-torn, man. They're done. Their biggest backer, Iran, just got the crap. They got themselves bombed back to the 5th century because let's face it, they were already basically living in the 7th ever since the Ayatollahs took over. So yeah, Iran was done, which basically means Hamas is done. Peace through strength is back again, and Trump keeps proving it over and over again. And the New World Order folks, and we want you to be peaceful and fat and lazy and not give a damn what we do, folks, are mad because Donald Trump is running a clinic on how America can lead through peace through strength. And they don't like it one bit. What they really don't like is now Donald Trump is actually starting to get credit from folks like Kankles Clinton and a few other folks that have actually spoke out today and been like, yeah, we got to kind of give him his credit. We'll be getting into some of that here in a second. But after this, I've got another clip I want you to hear. There was a very different tone in a certain place today where Donald Trump gave a speech and went off script. We'll be getting into that one after we finish this one.
Other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room. Civilians are returning to their homes. The hostages are reuniting. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just watching it backstage. The level of love and sorrow, I've never seen anything like it.
All right, so there you've got that. So he's basically giving the beginnings of the talk regarding the peace deal. Now, this happened later at a different meeting, and we're going to go straight into it because this one I'm probably going to be talking about for a minute, and it's kind of a longer clip anyway.
Men right here. Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speeches, you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that? All right, enough controversy for the day, right? It's actually, I don't think it's very controversial. So, you know, I mean, I see so popular. You are a very popular man. You know why? Because you know how to win. Over the past 2 years, I've met many of the families.
All right. So, in case you weren't exactly sure what was going on there, I've got a bit of a rundown for you real quick. So, this was a speech that was given earlier today. It looks like he went off script during a speech at the Knesset, and which makes this even more interesting because remember, just a couple of years ago, Bibi was on the outs with half the group of people again. So President Trump went off script during his address to the Israeli Knesset, and everyone in the chamber went crazy when he called for a pardon for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Speaking in the Knesset on Monday, Trump reflected on the historic Gaza-Israel peace deal after the return of the final 20 hostages before we veered off topic and made a suggestion that made those in the room applaud and cheer. And you heard that firsthand right here. There may actually be another clip, so hang on. I want to try to get this queued up. Except I hit the wrong button. 1 second. Okay, it may just be a zoom in on what we'd already shown, but I'm going to go ahead and play it again anyway. 1 second. This is what happens, though, when I usually try to make sure that I don't pre-watch clips with you guys, so at least you get my live reaction, because sometimes I play the same stuff twice.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, esteemed members of the Knesset, and cherished citizens of Israel, we gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
All right. So, from everybody from Chucky Schumer to Hillary Clinton, there have been wide-ranging responses to the peace deal. And again, remember this, and I don't want to put too fine a point on this. We are in the very beginning, early stages of this, but I will say that when everybody starts paying attention, even your enemies, it's time to recognize that you may have actually accomplished something, or at least set the framework for something that could wind up being huge. Because when Kankles Clinton is like, yeah, I'll give him credit. The curious thing for me, and I was going to play the clip, but we only have an hour and I have a lot of material to get through, was I remember there was a lady from The View back in December that was like, if he brings the hostages home, I'll wear a MAGA hat for a day. I'll be curious to see if that happens at some point this week. I am not, however, holding my breath. So yeah, the shutdown, the shutdown will be something we get to probably here in just a minute. But I do want to finish this up and give this its due. This has been going on for 2 years. This is something that everybody, besides a handful of us, said was probably never going to be able to be addressed. At this point, even if all he did was manage to get the hostages home before these people start taking pot shots at one another again, he's still done more than the Biden administration could in the last 2 years. Yeah, but I'm still going to give her the benefit of the doubt for the next few days since it just happened. So we'll see. I know she didn't do it today, but I'll give her a grace period. I'll let her. We'll see if she does it by Friday or not. I have no serious inclination that this is going to happen at all. So no worries there. All right. So now that we've done a quick scan on the peace deal, and we'll get into more detail on that tomorrow. Let's move on to the shutdown stuff. But before we do that, we got to talk about my friends over at Freedom Chat. If you haven't checked them out yet, you probably should. You know, as a conservative, I like being able to have conversations with people without worrying about who's eavesdropping and screen grabbing and all that other stuff. That is impossible through our friends over at Freedom Chat. You can actually set it to where messages self-destruct or remove from the thread after a certain amount of time. You can lock it to where it's impossible for anybody to get a screen grab. It's not that they can't try, but when they do, all they get is a blank image, which would have made most of the things the administration was getting in trouble early on for impossible if they had been using Freedom Chat. So check them out. Best place to go is freedomchat.com. It tells you all about it, how to get involved right now. Of course, it is a messaging app. So it's it's app only. So phone based. So Android, Apple, you pick based on your phone, sign up. You can go, if you sign up, make sure you go find us. KLR Radio and Rick Robinson are both on there. We are working on adding more show pages more show channels as we go. I will admit I'm not doing a very good job of posting stuff over there, but I've had a lot of different things that I'm learning how to get organized and coordinated. So the more we go and the more I get used to having an actual assistant of some form, we will be getting more done. But I do want to take a second to talk about those folks before we move into the next block, where we start talking about the government shutdown. Despite the Democrats' best efforts, Donald Trump is finding ways to mitigate pain for the people that matter. Our military. And I'm not saying anybody else in government service doesn't matter, but let's face it, they matter the most. They're the ones that keep us safe. They're the ones that have called up, will bleed and die for you and me. So they're the ones that remind us freedom isn't free. That's a tag for a surprise coming up here in a bit. Okay, so make sure you made note of that. There's a reason I worked that in. Just saying. Yeah, I've been having a little bit more fun with, me coming up with lyric ideas and AI helped me flesh them out, and then we rework them again, and then we rework them again, and then I turn them over to Suno, and Suno does some amazing things. So yeah, I now basically have, I don't really want to say a parody band in a box because I haven't really started my hand at the parody stuff yet because Suno wouldn't allow me to do those justice anyway. So if there is an AI program that allows me to use riffs from actual artists, I need to find that. Then I probably would have a parody band in a box. Not that I wouldn't prefer to still have our friends, the Third Rail Ramblers. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Miss you guys. And this has been a very target-rich environment. I'm just saying. And I know at least one of you was lurking and probably the other, because the other usually only shows his face on certain types of shows and then messages me afterwards. But I know you're usually lurking, and you know who you are. Sorry. Had to do that. Had to be done. Dude, we were like the first ever podcast group that I know of that had our own house parody band. It was awesome. And then it was taken from us unfairly. Just kidding. To be fair, they actually belonged to Stacy and JD first. I just kind of hijacked them. Anyway, so we're now into federal shutdown week 2. Still no spending bill in sight. Town Hall and Red State both confirm roughly 4,000 layoff notices have gone out. Some later rescinded, others not. The Blaze reports a sharp split between fiscal conservatives who want hard caps and moderates ready to fold to keep paychecks flowing. You squishes better sit down and shut up. So President Trump's directive to the Pentagon ordering it to use every available fund to keep the troops paid is real. AP News is verified via PBS NewsHour, which means all you leftists who don't want to think this is real can suck it. It's a smart optics move. Protect the troops, pressure Congress. Q analysis. This isn't just a budget fight. It's a test of who runs the machinery of government. When it stops running, federal workers caught in the crossfire, small towns feeling the loss of spending, and the White House blaming everyone else, because everyone else besides the White House and mostly Democrats do deserve the blame, because this is their fault. This is their fault. They have the ability to open things tomorrow. 5 common sense Democrats could reopen everything tomorrow, but we know there's really no such thing as common sense Democrats anymore. The one exception to that rule seems to be John Fetterman, who I used to not so lovingly call Uncle Festerman, but apparently it took a stroke to make his brain work. Which, according to the left, is the exact opposite. They're saying the reason he's voting more Republican now is because, of course, according to them, all Republicans are retarded. So it's no wonder a dude with a stroke would be fitting right in. Now, and I don't do this that often, but we're going to do something a little bit different. If you are somebody that's being impacted by the shutdown and you have a voice about it, I would like to hear from you. Feel free to email me at rick@klrradio.com. You can even email me at radiofreerick@gmail.com if it's easier to keep up with. Or you can just at me right here at RowdyRick73 or on X, or send me a message. My messages are open. That is not an invitation for you. You know who you are. Quit sending me crypto stuff, dude. I know it's a scam. And so now X has their own version of, and I know this isn't in my notes, but we got to talk about this for a second. X has their own version now of the I'm your rich Nigerian friend's uncle from Africa. Annoying. So, quick hit before we get ready to take the musical interlude, which will be a bit of a surprise tonight. Like I said, I've been having a bit of fun. Also, even though we have music licensing, we run stuff on other people's channels occasionally. So the stuff that goes over there, I'm working on getting clean stuff for, so they don't have to keep filing appeals when I run my stuff over there. So, because it's not that I can't win the appeals, there's just a pain. So anyway, while Congress fights, bureaucracy backpedals. The Blaze and PJ Media both highlighted the CDC quietly reversing hundreds of employees' terminations after internal pushback and legal heat. Over 600 cases are still pending. The official line, administrative review. The real story? I don't really know what the real story is. I personally was rather fine to see Russ Voigt turned loose with the Grim Reaper scythe. And, but yeah, the thing about it is, I would like to highlight that no matter how you look at this, Donald Trump is probably the worst dictator ever. Every time he turns around, there's a judge that says, hey, you can't do that. So he stops. Worst dictator ever. So. All right, so that's pretty much going to take us up to the bottom of the hour break. We do have... nice, Beezy. I will keep that in mind, my friend. I will keep that in mind. All right, so we do have a bit of a surprise coming, but we got to get queued up for the break first. So hang on. Not playing all of it this time, just going to use it as a transition. We'll be right back.
America's off the rails, and we're taking the throttle tonight. They shut the lights down in the city, say the systems on the roads, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck in your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. They bring peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. It's written in red on history's page, a warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free.
And welcome back into the show, folks. Hope everybody's having a great Monday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Sorry, this still kind of feels like Sunday to me because I haven't had a day off yet. I like worked all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Now pretty much all day today getting this one prepped up, and I still have writing projects that are backed up and other things that I need to be doing. Those will be on the list of things for tomorrow, though, because I'm actually going to try to get some sleep tonight. It's been a minute. Anyway, so everybody's having a great Monday. Sorry, I know some of you are like, dude, you're playing a lot of music tonight. This is stuff I wrote. I'm proud of it. Sorry. Don't like it, start your own show. I'll even help you. Just saying. It's kind of what I do. All right. Anyway. So let's get back into the meat of things here because we have more material than we have show clock at the moment. So we're going to try to speed things up a little bit because as usual, I may have over prepped. Just saying. Let's get back into the stories here. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. All right, so I told you we would probably bring up the whole Columbus Day thing again. So apparently, JD Vance has been on fire for the last little bit. I have to admit, him and Trump are probably about the most perfect trolling tag team I've seen as far as president and vice president. And he is a damn sight above our previous vice president under Donald J. Trump, who I lovingly called Cotton Hill. So it's begun. Democrats are now acknowledging the release of the Israeli hostages, albeit without giving President Trump any credit. Not shocking. But it's laughable. President Trump pitched the agreement that Hamas and Israel agreed upon to end the Gaza war. To admit this is like trying to talk about World War II without mentioning Pearl Harbor. the Battle of the Bulge, or D-Day. Senator Liz Warren, Democrat in Massachusetts, posted about the agreement, and, well, let's just say it could have been mistaken as a Saturday Night Live script. For 2 excruciating years, I have called for the return of the hostages brutally kidnapped on October 7th and held in Gaza. Today is a good day. Surviving Israeli hostages are finally home and reunited with their loved ones. I'm thinking of them and their families on this glorious day. I'm sorry, she said joyful. So, and praying for their full recovery. I'm also grieving for all those who couldn't come home today. Today must also be an important step toward the lasting peace in the region, peace for both Israeli and Palestinians. We must end the war in Gaza, surge humanitarian aid, and negotiate a 2-state solution now. So Vice President J.D. Vance responded the only way he knew how, and I quote from his X feed, "The president told me he did this on Indigenous Peoples Day in honor of you." Ouch. 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 Oh, okay. So I have to admit that's actually really funny. But look, again, the whole Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day thing. Look, can we just admit the fact that our history has been warped and twisted by a bunch of tree-hugging, hippie, granola-eating bastages who want to think that America is evil, terrible, and horrible, and everything that we've ever done stems from evil, terrible, and horrible things? Christopher Columbus was a human being. He was flawed. He was imperfect. But he still did something that was amazing for his time. Now, we've talked about it on this show. And there are some folks who say that the reason he started trying to do the whole get to India thing was to try to get around and get supplies back into Spain because Muslims were overrunning the country. That's not entirely accurate. Spain had already basically ran off the Muslim or the Mussulman herd, as they called them back then, or the horde, not the herd. Close enough. But there were Muslim states that were still squeezing Europe and cutting off trade routes. That's why Columbus was doing what he was doing, was to reestablish trade routes and to make sure that Europe didn't basically go broke and starve. Did it go as planned? No. But this idea that he found this peaceful, idyllic Eden isn't real. These people were warring with one another before we got here. The other part of the story that nobody talks about later is this. It was the Native American tribes that actually declared war on the original settlers. It wasn't us. It was them. It was them. You know why it was them? Because the peaceful coexisting Christians were starting to blend into their culture and change it. The tribal elders and chiefs didn't like any of this because their people were wanting to start trying to accept and adopt Christian standards and were looking for peaceful existence with one another. The tribes didn't like that. They liked being able to go to war. They liked being able to rape and pillage. So they declared war on the settlers. Now, I'm not saying that our side was completely justified in everything that it did, but I would like to remind you of a very old adage that has remained true for pretty much the entire time I've been alive in this country until the last 15, 20 years. You better not ever be the one to start a fight, but you damn well better be the one to finish it if a fight gets started. That used to be a thing. It needs to be a thing again because we're watching the same thing start playing out all over Europe and even here. I talked about this on the Daily Show earlier or the other day. There's an entire community being formed up in Texas where the streets are named after Muslim leaders and books of the Quran. There's a 32,000 square foot mosque. Now, look, I am a firm believer in people being able to practice their faith. The problem is I don't view Islam as a faith. That's where they try to get you. You're attacking their right to religious freedom. No, I'm not. I'm attacking a belief system that is antithetical to ours, and two antithetical belief systems can't exist in the same space at the same time for very long. This is why I was very pleased today to see that the Trump administration is actually starting to deny visa applications and people entry into the country that are confirmed to be practicing Sharia law, which, like it or not, is part of the Islamic faith. Sharia law is bad. Sharia law is antithetical to everything that we hold true here. We need to start remembering that, because it isn't a violation of somebody's First Amendment rights to say, hey, you are supporting things that we don't agree with, so therefore you can't come in. I know that's harsh to a lot of folks, but it's a true statement. And it's time that we start grounding things in reality again, not lovely little peaceful feel-good moments. All right, so Spam Burger, as I call her, and I know I'm mispronouncing it, but I'm doing it on purpose because what's grosser than a spam burger? Unless you live in Hawaii, apparently. But she's back in the news again, and she's been in the news ever since the moment where she kind of went smirky vapor lock on the debate stage. Like, Sears kept asking her this question, and she would never respond. And at one point, she kind of got the Harley Quinn stare going on. It was kind of creepy. But apparently, Ted Cruz had a response for her today, so we're going to be looking into that in a minute. So this is again from our friends over at Red State. This is Nick Arama, came out today at 3:35. We saw former Congresswoman and Virginia Democrat gubernatorial candidate Abigail Spamberger implode during her debate with the GOP's Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears last week. She couldn't give any reasonable answers as to whether she still endorsed Democrat Attorney General candidate Jay Jones, despite his horrible remark. Dude, is it me or does that dude sound like he's got a name from like a Marvel comic book, villain origin story? Jay Jones becomes blah, blah, blah. Pick up your first issue. Anyway, his horrible remarks about the 2 bullets for the Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert, and comments about wanting the death of his children. If you can't even have the courage to say whether you support or do not support Jones, then how can you lead in Virginia? Then on top of that, she also fumbled on a question about boys and girls locker rooms. She wouldn't weigh in on whether she would rescind a measure signed by Governor Glenn Youngkin that would require students to only go to the restrooms of their actual birth gender. You would think that even if she doesn't want to answer the question, she could have had better answers prepared for subjects that she's obviously going to be questioned on. However, she delivered an even worse response to the question about men and women's locker rooms when questioned on WSHV Channel 3. What do you think of Earl Sears' claim that you are fine with putting men in women's locker rooms? The interviewer asked her, not that's a simple question. Either you are or no, you are not. But Spamberger launched into an incredible, almost 2.5-minute word salad that never gave a straight answer to the question. So here's the word salad, and this is the reason why I call her Vanilla Kami Lama, because really when you start looking at their cadence, their word structure, their lack of sentence structure, it's almost like they share the same couple of brain cells they're trying to rub together. Wait, did I say that out loud? My bad. The reality is that the federal government has the ability to change the letter of the law through Congress, through the Senate, through the Senate bills go to the president's desk. Right now, what we are seeing is there are differences between what is the law of the land under Title IX and what are executive orders put out by the White House. And in circumstances where there are conflicting evidence or conflicting interpretations, the reality is the federal government has to be clear in what is the real guidance available to our schools as it relates to use of locker rooms. The reality is that we have multiple jurisdictions who believe they are following the letter of the law and have their lawyers conveying why. And at the end of the day, we have a president of the United States who is taking away and threatening federal funding. What I think is so egregious is that this is a tool that unfortunately this president continues to use. The threat of federal funding. Congress passed funding. It is not the president's ability. This is basic Article 1. If you believe in the Constitution, the president doesn't have the ability to just pull back funding. It isn't just to these public schools. It is to our research institutions. It's for cancer research. It's for funding to conservation programs under USDA that are vital to so many of the farmers and producers who employ and rotational grazing practices and other conservation practices. Is she making a point here? I don't even know if I'm going to keep reading this. I'm just not. But wow. I do have to admit, Ted Cruz had an absolutely glorious response, though. Wow, I think even Kamala listened to that and said, that's an absolute word salad. And again, this is why I call her Vanilla Kamala. Just saying. Just saying. Okay, so we're going to finish up the last few minutes of the program in ICE territory. So this is from our friends over at The Blaze. Outrage ensues when a 13-year-old is arrested by ICE, then DHS releases devastating accusations. Detractors pounced on the story to criticize, hey, only Republicans are supposed to be pronouncing. Messed up my own joke. Fail at life. Anyway, only Republicans are supposed to be pouncing here, folks. You can't take our pouncing away from us and just gleefully give it to somebody else. That's just not right. I'm sorry. It's just not right. I don't care what you say. It's not right. Anyway, sorry. Back to the story. After some public outrage, the Department of Homeland Security released details about the criminal accusations against a minor who was arrested and detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The mother of the teenager told the media that she didn't know why he was arrested. She also claimed that when she went to pick him up from the Everett Police Department, she was told he was being detained by ICE and then transported to a detention center in Winchester, Virginia. Here are the facts. He posed a public safety threat with an extensive rap sheet, including violent assault with a dangerous weapon. Critics pounced on the story. Stop taking our pouncing. And to criticize the administration. This makes no sense. A 13-year-old was arrested by local police for unknown reasons and then turned over to Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is detaining him far away from his mommy, who is going through immigration court, has an asylum application on file, and is legally authorized to work. That is all claimed by Aaron Reishan Melnick, who leads an immigration activist group. On Monday, DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin released information about the teen's legal troubles. Here are the facts. He posed a public safety threat with an extensive rap sheet, including violent assault with a dangerous weapon, battery, breaking and entering, destruction of private property. She did write on social media as well. He was in possession of a firearm and a 5 to 7 inch knife when arrested. Just to make sure everybody's on the same page, you can look it up based on your own city, state ordinances, etc. But a knife of that length is usually illegal, and it is often considered a felony possession charge of a weapon in most jurisdictions. On Sunday, Judge Richard Starnes told ICE and Department of Homeland Security that they must release the boy unless they produce a legitimate justification for his detainment. He also ordered that they must have a hearing no later than 17th of October for bail. The mother said that her son is a 7th grader and they are both from Brazil but have pending asylum claims. So I guess we'll be keeping up with that one, but 13-year-old running around with serious weaponry. Welcome to America under the left. All right, so before we get into one of the final topics of the night, and I trust me, I saved the best, or in this case, probably the worst for last. I do want to talk about this first. So this is happening in just a little over a week. Is it that one? Yep, there we go. All right, sorry. Was making sure I had it queued up right. So the day the earth stood still, October 24th, 2025, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, or lovingly referred to on most Friday nights as Aggie time. The day the earth stood still, put together by your loving KLR radio players who do plays usually in the spring and in the fall. However, we haven't been, I don't think we've put out an official fall one in a while. So this is our first attempt to get back to doing at least 2. Eventually, we would like to be able to do 3 or 4. These will also eventually all be put out on their own sub page under Spreaker. So if you miss it live, you can always go check it out there. But I do encourage the live experience. It's just fun. And this year, we even plan on having a bit of an after party and just kind of hanging out and chilling with people for a few minutes and letting you guys harass us, whatever. Now, we don't claim to be actual thespians. Some of us are lesbians trapped in men's bodies, but not thespians. So it is mainly intended for fun. A lot of folks enjoyed our very first ever fall one, which was War of the Worlds. It started as just an idea of doing a live read while a bunch of folks were just sitting around drinking, and it turned into a lot of fun and kind of blew up. So we got serious about it. We are still doing this on a shoestring, though. So if you're looking for, radio plays circa 1920s, 1930s, they ain't that great. But if you want a bunch of folks that love what we do, like to ad lib a lot, throw some stuff in there just to see if it can trip people up, and still try to put out a great presentation, I do encourage you to come hang out for that one. That is, again, Friday the 24th at 8:30 right here on KLR Radio. Also be available on all of our X feeds, Rumble feeds, YouTube feeds, Facebook feeds, the website, and again, usually Spreaker by the next day. And with the number of people that we're going to have there will probably be upwards of 15 to 20 live streams all running it on X, because we like to share the love. All right, so I saved the worst part for last. So remember how I told you we were going to be hanging out in ice territory to finish out the show, which is where we are for the last, 5 minutes-ish. Got to talk about Portland. Some of you are like, oh, God, I was hoping you were going to mention this. You should have known better. So a bunch of nude bicyclists protested in Norman and began doing everything they could to block ice access. Yes, you heard me right. Nude cyclists in Oregon by the ice facility. Seems like a good time, right? I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, so we will not be running any of the video. So I'm not going to try to give you major nightmares. But I wanted to hit on that, and then we got to talk about this one, because this actually just came across my feed. So yeah, but if you missed the news, I'm sure you probably, or if you haven't, I'm sure you've seen the videos. I will save you from that. The one, and I saw one of them earlier today, was a dude who basically got off the bike and just started strutting. Luckily, he had a poncho on because it was raining. Otherwise, I might have been puking. But yeah, so we had to mention that. We've got one more quick hit in that regard as far as the anarchist plot going on in Portland, and that's exactly what it is. So remember that whole, laser tag event they were putting out flyers about? So it may have had some unintended consequences. So Portland Trauma Hospital's emergency helicopters were forced to divert, significantly adding to their travel time when local anarchists threatened to ground aircraft with laser lights, which is in fact a federal crime. Oregon Health and Science University told KGW that several air ambulance vendors refused to land on the hospital's helipad Saturday evening because of the planned attack. The threatened interruption to air travel added 45 to 60 minutes of travel time for those emergency helicopters. For most patients, that will be an acceptable delay. However, for some sensitive situations, such as unstable trauma patients, STEMIs, and strokes, the delays could have real impacts, OHSU stated. Rose City Counterinfo, an online anonymous anarchist group based in Portland, shared a flyer advertising that very not so cool protest. You're invited, laser tag, it read. Every night for weeks, we are forced to listen to the threatening rhythm of helicopter blades as the federal regime spies on us. The flyer encouraged readers to mask up and go to a park, a field, or some other public place to point lasers at cop cars at cop copters at 9 p.m. on Saturday. It won't take many of us to ground the helicopters, the flyer stated. The blog post provided further instructions on how to evade law enforcement while engaging in this illegal act. If enough lasers are pointed to the aircraft, we think it will not be able to safely stay in the air for long enough to continue to pinpoint the source. for law enforcement. And numbers will make it difficult to focus on a single person, the blog post read. Be ready to dispose of the laser if you need to. Wear gloves and clean it with alcohol in case you have to toss it in a hurry. Consider taking precautions to keep DNA off of it as well. The PPB told Fox News that no laser incidents were reported that evening. However, the department said it did arrest one individual earlier in the week. The Department of Homeland Security vowed to stop Antifa domestic terrorists from taking over cities. We will bust their networks and bring every one of them to justice, the DHS wrote in an X post. The website that shared the flyer has also recently doxed immigration and custom enforcement agents, posting photos of alleged officers and their alleged home addresses. We put together some posters for people to slap up around town. Name and shame these Gestapo clowns. No peace, no safety, not welcome in our town, according to that same blog's post. So we're putting that one out on X. I'll be going through here in the next few minutes and putting all of the source material out on X as well. I would also, for those of you that have been asking, we did the opening of the next series of shows on Kingdom and Country last night. There is now also a companion Substack that for now will be kind of working as a newsletter. So that you can go find that it's just Kingdom and Country, Kingdom in Country, because it was shorter that way. If you want to subscribe, you can. There's also a post up on X, so you can go find it there. It will usually also get posted out within a few minutes of the show going off the air, so that I can make sure all the notes and everything are finalized. We're also starting to put together a Bible study based on the scriptures that we put out under that brand throughout the week that will be attached as well for those that are so inclined. But yeah, so that's our newest thing. Actually, we are going to probably wrap because we're just about out of time anyway. But since we are, want to show off something else that I made. This is the music interlude from the show last night, tying in with the entire theme of the show for last night for those of you that missed it. And it is available now on everywhere you get audio podcasts, available on our X feeds, available on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and our website. I think it has it. I'll have to look. I haven't checked. Yeah, so if you want to check it out and replay, you can. This is something else that I wrote yesterday. It's been a kind of an idea that's been running around my brain for the last week or so when I started putting this topic together. But since I don't have to hand off to Sean, we're going to play this one instead. I'm just going to let it run till it ends, and then that's when the show's over. Want to thank everybody for hanging out for this Monday night. We had pretty good numbers. Not great, but solid. I'll take them. But I haven't been very consistent with this one lately either, so I'm hoping to be able to get those numbers back up to where they were. My name's Rick Robinson. This has been America Off the Rails. I'll be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, for the Tuesday edition of the Rick Robinson Show, right here live on KLRMradio.com. Don't forget, freedom isn't free, and America isn't off the rails because of anything the politicians have really done. It's because we gave away our control. It's time to take the throttle back, folks. We'll see you next week.
In the glow of a midnight screen, the garden flickers faint and unseen. Little hands reach for endless light, touching knowledge dressed in night.
The serpent hums an electric code, whispers soft on the fibered road. Did God really say it begins again? And children listen like Adam's kin.
We traded trees for towers high, with the fruit that doesn't die. And now the garden's gone online, where innocence learns to lie. Children of the garden, hear the call. The serpent still whispers through it all. In the heart of every glowing screen, there's
We pave the ground with silver wires, named our dreams after our desires, built our gods from coated flame, then knelt before them just the same.
Eyes too young to see the snare,
Eyes too young to see the snare,
lost in wonders that weren't there.
Eden echoes through the static rain,
But grace still walks the data chain,
every pixel, every plea
carries echoes of the tree.
But mercy blooms through broken things.
Even digital angels sing. Let the silence break the feed. Let the word plant the seed. The garden's not gone, it waits beneath every prayer the lost still breathe.
Children of the garden,
rise again.
Serpents still whisper,
but the end is written. Light still burns behind the code. Truth still shines on the narrow road. Oh, children of the garden, come home. Come children of the garden,
rise again.
Children of the garden, children of the garden,
Children of the garden, come home.
He walks in the cool of the day.
Where are you?
He walks in the cool of the day.
Where